All right, here we go again. Good afternoon to you. 3:06 now, News Talk 105.9 WMAL, where we're making sense of the news. Coming up this hour, Tom Fitton is here from Judicial Watch. We'll talk about Michael Cohen and so much more. You know, Cohen, apparently he's lying even this week to the jury as he continues to be who he is. That's ahead. I've got some amazing audio for you coming up. Bobby Burak will be with us at 4 o'clock as an NFL kicker decides to express his Catholic faith in public. He's now under assault, including from his own league attacking him. Bobby has the details. Andy Biggs, the congressman, he's here at 5 o'clock with us, spending the day with President Trump at that courthouse today and set to be voting on contempt proceedings for Merrick Garland this evening. He's a busy man. He'll join us at 5. And then at 5:30, Todd Blanche from the Center for Immigration Studies. He's also testifying to Congress today. And we'll go over the news of Jordanian nationals trying to just rocket right through the front gate at Quantico Marine Corps Base now 2 Fridays ago. Still awaiting so many answers on what the heck is going on there, as one of them is reportedly, at least, on the terror watch list. It's good to have you with us today. The number is 888-630-9625, 888-630-WMAL. Of course, we've been focusing on that story because you deserve to have answers on it. And we still don't know so much here, but we do have this. This is audio just coming to us in the last 20 minutes from the White House today. Peter Doocy relaying that he has received confirmation from Immigration and Customs Enforcement that it is indeed 2 Jordanian nationals who were behind the wheel of that white box truck trying to get onto Marine Corps Base Quantico, home of so many different federal services to include the FBI Training Academy. Here is Peter Doocy asking a question of Karine Jean-Pierre, again, just moments ago.
The Deputy Director of ICE is telling us that 2 Jordanian nationals are in removal proceedings now after posing as Amazon delivery drivers to crash the gates at Quantico. Does the White House think this might have been a failed terrorist attack?
So going to be really mindful. These 2 Jordanians that you're speaking of remain in ICE custody, and given that it is an active law enforcement matter, so I would have to refer you to ICE. I just can't dive into this because, again, there's a law enforcement. This is a law enforcement matter.
It's an active law enforcement matter. I don't know how much we can read into this because she's an idiot. But there's also this piece. She is confirming what Peter Doocy just said. So now you have both from the White House and from Immigration and Customs Enforcement. Yes, 2 illegal immigrants. Yes, Jordanian nationals. Yes, trying to get onto the Quantico Marine Corps Base. We know the time frame. We know it was Friday, May 3rd. We have a photo up on my Twitter account, my X account. We posted it last night from a tipster who happened to see all of this as it was happening. A white box truck stopped by the vehicle barriers that had to be raised to prevent those men from moving forward into the base. There's no license plate visible on the back of that truck. You can see the picture on my X account today. Still few answers here, but apparently it's not just removal proceedings. Karine Jean-Pierre seems to be suggesting some other deeper law enforcement question is being answered, some investigations being conducted. So I await more on this. I do think that might also be, I could be wrong, but that might also be the first time that anybody at Fox has offered confirmation that they've been chasing down the reporting on this as well. Because I checked their website. I didn't see anything on this. Peter Doocy saying that in the White House press briefing was the first I had heard of it. So, again, we'll see. A lot of attention on that issue in our area. Todd Blanche has written about that story for the New York Post this week. He joins us at 5:30. We'll talk to him. He's also doing congressional testimony today, wherein he's talking about all of the Chinese nationals who are pouring across our border. We have a lot of those. And what are the chances we can slow that down? What are they doing here in the United States? There's a lot of problems there. Todd Blanche will try and untangle it for us at 5:30. Let me move on to some of the other big stories of the day now. The White House, speaking of the White House and the things that they're saying, what Karine Jean-Pierre is saying today, the White House is refusing to release audio of Joe Biden's multi-day interviews with Robert Hur. Now, just to remind people, we have the transcripts already. The transcripts of those conversations were already released, and those transcripts revealed that Joe Biden lied in the wake of the Hur report about what Robert Hur said to him. And the way the conversation came up, remember, he accused Robert Hur of bringing up Beau Biden. I couldn't believe he brought up my son. He didn't bring up your son. You brought up your son. And the transcripts revealed that. So it was yet again another Biden lie to the American people. The transcripts made that really clear. Hur didn't bring it up. Biden did. Hur's conclusion as a result of those conversations, you'll recall, is that he is a sympathetic elderly man with a poor memory. And for that reason, can't be charged in a court of law because no jury would find him guilty because they would think of him as too incompetent to actually stand trial. That's the implication of Hur's remarks. So that's why there's no legal consequences for Joe Biden, either during or subsequent to his presidency, at least according to Robert Hur. And it was critical that they mention Biden's brain as a way to convey why they weren't charging him, because everything else made it crystal clear that, yeah, of course they should charge him. So they offered an excuse. The White House acted like they were upset that it was in there, but it was made public in order to offer a rationale for why there were going to be no charges. All right. So Congress has been asking for the final piece here. Look, we have the transcript already. You're not sharing anything you haven't already shared in terms of the actual words. Share the audio. There's an audio recording of this. Give it to us. The House Judiciary and Oversight Committees saying, we want this. James Comer, Jim Jordan, we want this audio. We need to hear this audio. And of course, the American people deserve to hear that too. For all sorts of reasons. One, again, we're not adding a tremendous amount, we would think, to the written transcript, unless, of course, the audio says something different than the transcript does. And the other piece is you can learn a lot about a person by hearing them speak. What's their demeanor? How are they handling themselves? How long did it take to answer varying questions? Should the American people be concerned about Joe Biden's mental state to the point that they ask him to leave office, that they ask the cabinet to invoke the 25th Amendment to remove him? These are critical questions, aren't they? And so today, the White House has decided to deny Congress that audio. Biden invoked, or the people around him using his name, invoked executive privilege today, denying that audio, saying we will not be releasing it. Now, that quite obviously means they would be embarrassed by the contents of it. Either the transcript itself is a lie, or they don't want you to hear of Joe Biden's delivery in this audio, that it's that damaging to his political prospects. And in case you're wondering about whether or not the White House views it as damaging to his political prospects, they sent a letter today to Congress saying, first and foremost, that they were denying access to the audio. They were claiming executive privilege. They suggest that it was Merrick Garland who asked for it. Merrick Garland was like, hey, could you please invoke executive privilege to block this? And in the letter, they say, the absence of a legitimate need for the audio recordings lays bare your likely goal to chop them up, distort them, and use them for partisan political purposes. Well, let me tell you what they're really saying, but they're presenting it in the inverse. They are declaring outright that they believe that this audio would be politically damaging. The White House letter is admitting that withholding the Hur audio is only being done to protect Biden from political consequences. So when they send a letter to Congress, they say, you're just going to use this for political purposes. What they're really saying is, please don't hurt us with this. It's going to be bad if we release this, so we're not going to. They further say demanding such sensitive and constitutionally protected law enforcement materials from the executive branch because you want to manipulate them for potential political gain is inappropriate, they say. The White House was asked about this today, this specific thing. Why, Karine Jean-Pierre, why is it that you are withholding this? Why aren't you releasing this to the public? And here's a little bit of the back and forth. Here is a reporter for the Associated Press, Sung-Min Kim, asking Karine Jean-Pierre, wait a second, doesn't the letter clearly imply that you're worried about the political damage here?
President Biden decided to block the release of the audio of his interview with the special counsel. And obviously the letter from the White House counsel laid out the reasons about the concerns of being used for political purposes. But that seems to imply that the White House is concerned that these could be politically damaging. So why not just release them, especially with this?
Even the Associated Press understands this point.
House's commitment to transparency?
Well, for one, the transcripts, as you all know, is already out there. I think the second piece of this, too, to note is that the Attorney General made it clear that law enforcement files like these need to be protected.
The transcript's already out. There's nothing to protect unless you're hiding something.
And so the president made his determination at the request of the Attorney General. So just want to make that second point that I made really
Is the president even aware of this entire back and forth? Has anybody checked with him whatsoever?
clear. The Department of Justice and the White House counsel's office have provided extensive written letters, as you all know. I'm sure some of you have read this on this issue. And like I said, that you have seen. And so when it comes to...
Whatever happened to the White House not interfering in Justice Department activities? This is explicitly what they're up to here. Oh, they're working hand in glove. Oh, they have to work together on coordinating this.
Anything further or any specifics, obviously, I would refer you to my colleagues at the White House counsel's office. But those are just to make that second point, again, very clear. This was taken by determination. The president took the determination at the request of the Attorney General and wanted to make sure, the Attorney General wanted to make sure that that law enforcement files like these must be protected.
Yeah, so remember, Merrick Garland has been dragging his feet. That's the whole point of this, and not turning over this audio. This is his deadline, and now you have two House committees beginning the process of holding in contempt of Congress today. And this is his Hail Mary effort to try and say, please don't hold me in contempt. And so he gets the White House to say, oh, we're declaring executive privilege over the audio. We just can't release it. Now, a further exchange. Once again, the Associated Press reporter staying on this issue. Hold up. This means that you're worried about the political damage of this audio.
But does the White House feel that the recording, the audio, could be politically harmful, since that point was also raised in the letter?
So I don't want to dive into the specific point that you're making about the politics. I would have
because it would hurt us.
Refer you to our counsel's office on that. But there were determination that the president took very seriously on behalf of obviously at the request of the Attorney General.
She keeps passing it on. So she says it was Merrick Garland who came up with this whole scheme to stop everybody from having access here. Now, Garland has remarks of his own today. He was moving through a hallway somewhere in the Capitol, and a couple of reporter questions were put to him about all of this. Here's Merrick Garland today. Take a listen to his excuse as to why we don't get to hear the audio of Biden.
The Justice Department is a fundamental institution of our democracy.
Yeah, unlike Congress.
It will depend on us to ensure that our investigations and our prosecutions are conducted according to the facts and the law and without political influence.
Yeah, so that involves, reporting the things that you've discovered, telling the American people.
We have gone to extraordinary lengths to ensure that the committees get responses to their legitimate requests. But this is not one.
So why was the transcript a legitimate response and not the audio itself?
To the contrary, this is one that would harm our ability in the future to successfully pursue sensitive investigations.
Once again, the transcript is out. So unless you were lying in the transcript, that's horse hockey. That's not true. Merrick Garland continues.
This request, this effort to use contempt as a method of obtaining our sensitive law enforcement files is just the most recent. The effort to threaten to defund our investigations.
Which you deserve. You deserve that for sure.
And the way in which there are contributions to an atmosphere that puts our agents and our prosecutors at risk. These are wrong.
Why would it put your agents and prosecutors at risk? What are you even talking about? Additionally, again, you've released the transcript. I can't say it enough. The transcript's out. Horse is out of the barn. And you're not releasing the audio because you know what it's going to do. You know it. The White House straight up said it. They tried to project it onto Republicans, but they straight up said, even the Associated Press could detect, this is going to hurt Biden. If this audio gets out, it will savage him. We can't let that happen. We're declaring executive privilege over the audio specifically. All the more reason it should be out. Michael Cohen continues sweating on the stand today under cross-examination from Donald Trump's attorneys. We'll be talking to Tom Fitton here in a few minutes. Get his thoughts on Michael Cohen's ongoing testimony. Bad idea for the prosecution To the point that even people like CNN's Anderson Cooper are now saying, this has been a disaster. Take a listen. This is on CNN today because, again, we don't get any audio from inside of the courtroom. Here's Anderson Cooper trying to offer a summary of how badly Michael Cohen is doing today.
Minutes of court today, right before the lunch break. It was incredible. I mean, it was, Ellie Honig on my program last night had talked about, on a cross-examination, lawyers want to kind of put the witness in build a box around the witness and then slam it shut. That's what Todd Blanche did to Michael Cohen. I mean, the story, the Todd Blanche just methodically went through this sequence of events of this phone conversation that Michael Cohen had testified to previously. That he had this consequential phone conversation with Donald Trump. It was a 90-second phone conversation. I believe it was October 24th was the date that it was testified to in around 8 p.m. or so at night. But Todd Blanche on his cross-examination today looked at the transcript of text messages that Michael Cohen had received and sent before that time frame. And there had been this series, I guess, of crank calls that Michael Cohen had received. It turned out to be from some 14-year-old. There was an exchange of messages between the alleged 14-year-old and Michael Cohen. And then Michael Cohen texts Keith Schiller at like 7:50 something or 7:48 p.m. Saying, hey, I've got some dope has been harassing me. I got the person's phone number. Who can I talk to? Keith Schiller texts him back saying, call me. And Michael Cohen calls Keith Schiller. This is the conversation that previously Michael Cohen had said he was calling to speak to Donald Trump to tell him that he was going ahead with the Stormy Daniels arrangement and that Trump approved it, which was crucial to Michael Cohen's whole raison d'etre for being on the stand.
So in other words, he's been telling everybody, yeah, that phone call was about setting up the Stormy Daniels payment. Now it's coming out during testimony. No, he was being pranked by a 14-year-old and didn't know what to do. So he had a 90-second phone call with Donald Trump's bodyguard to sort it out. What a disaster. Tom Fitton is going to be with us in moments, and I've got some audio that nobody else is playing anywhere in the media. Hold on. It involves Michael Cohen and another lie. Good afternoon. 3:35 now. News Talk 105.9 WMAL, where we're making sense of the news. Coming up, Bobby Barak is with us from Outkick as a Catholic NFL player is now under attack for his faith. He'll explain coming up at 4. And then 5 o'clock, Congressman Andy Biggs is here. He's got a busy day, went to New York. He was alongside President Trump this morning, coming back for a vote to hold Merrick Garland in contempt this evening. He'll discuss it all at 5 o'clock. At 5:30, Todd Bensman is here from the Center for Immigration Studies with updates on those illegal Jordanians attempting to get onto Quantico Marine Corps Base, as well as the Chinese nationals who are pouring across our border. You can join us, 888-630-9625, 888-630-WMAL. Michael Cohen's testimony continuing now in New York as Trump's attorney, Todd Blanche, appears to be just ripping him limb from limb. And to the point that even CNN's Anderson Cooper saying this guy built a box around the witness and then slammed it shut. So Cohen not performing well. The prosecution can't be happy with all of this, although they made him the star witness. For more on what's happening there, let's bring in the great Tom Fitton. He's president of Judicial Watch and the author of A Republic Under Assault. Tom, good afternoon to you, sir.
Hello, Vince. Good to be with you. Thank you.
At this point, if your eyes aren't open to what's happening here, there's no chance, is there?
Yeah, not only has there not been any evidence of criminal misconduct by President Trump, but it looks like he's the crime victim. And when you see what Cohen has admitted to, both in terms of lies and ethical and legal misconduct, some of which targeted Trump, maybe the wrong person's in the dock.
It definitely seems that way. In fact, I want to play, just to give people an example of something Michael Cohen has said on the stand. You've got he said a couple times this week already that he's never met with Alvin Bragg, the Manhattan DA. But here's Here's Michael Cohen in a podcast. This was played today for the jury. Take a listen to this.
So I want to thank the Manhattan District Attorney's Office and their field leader, Alvin Bragg, with whom I spent countless hours laying out how Trump directed those hush money payments and countless other financial crimes. He is about to get a taste of what I went through, and I promise you, it's not fun. Picturing Donald Trump being led through the booking process, getting fingerprinted, having his mugshot taken, fills me with delight.
All right, so there's Michael Cohen saying, I've met with Alvin Bragg endlessly, he said in his podcast, yet on the stand, he's been telling jurors this week, never met the guy.
Never met the guy. He admits to taping Trump, his own client taping him, so he could convince this National Enquirer publisher that Trump would pay him back. So it wasn't like he was taping him for any ethical or legal reason. It was part of his operation to take care of the Stormy Daniels issue so he could become, based on his own testimony, it looks like Chief of Staff or Attorney General. Mm-hmm. And that would have been interesting, but that didn't happen, obviously. No. And frankly, the outrage here, obviously, is that Bragg, as you pointed out, as we had opened up, Bragg is using this person as a witness. And it further highlights how outrageous it is that Trump has been put through this. They had no evidence. They had evidence to the contrary, that he was a crime victim in this whole process. And it's turned into what I call a 5-week hostage situation, where President Trump is a political hostage, and all of America is being held hostage to Alvin Bragg and another Democrat activist, Judge Merchan.
And the whole point of all of this, as you have been laying out so frequently, is it's an election rigging scheme. So I want to use that to segue to another issue that you're focused on this week. Judicial Watch has obtained documents related to illegal aliens voting in our elections, in particular in Washington, D.C. What can you tell us about those?
Well, they passed a law here in D.C. to allow aliens to vote, including illegal aliens. The only rule is essentially that can be seemingly enforced is that you've been a resident here for 30 days, and you don't plan to vote in an election back in your home country.
Right.
At least in the foreseeable future. So the way I read it is the Russian ambassador can start voting here in D.C. for mayor, or maybe even run for mayor. Who knows? Mm-hmm. And so they're not satisfied with that. Congress tried to pull it back. The House voted to take it out, under its prerogatives, and the Senate just flailed and didn't do anything. So right now, illegal aliens and foreign nationals can vote in our nation's capital for local officials. And of course, D.C. didn't leave it at that. They started doing training for illegal aliens and others, and we took note of that and asked for some of the documents. And it just confirms everything we're concerned about, that you have our nation's capital helping illegal aliens vote in our local elections. And it highlights what the left's goal are in a dramatic way. And
sure.
That's to ensure that aliens vote in all elections. I mean, they think it's an outrage to not able to vote in federal elections.
And as you point out, Congress had a chance to stop this in the district, and they're not doing it. In other words, Democrats, particularly in Congress, are endorsing this very behavior.
That's true. And, if Republicans thought it was important enough, they could have pushed it through the omnibus or the must-pass legislation that kept the government functioning and open. So I get a little frustrated when they make noise after the fact that they're doing something on an important issue that evidently wasn't important enough to, be part of the package that kept the government open. But that's another battle. Mm-hmm. But right now, in our nation's capital, the Chinese ambassador, the Russian ambassador, any foreign national, any illegal alien, for all intents and purposes, can vote for mayor or the D.C. Council or ANC commissioner or any other elected office here in D.C.
And that goes right to the point that Democrats have tried to make for years. They tried to claim, they're like, we don't want the foreign adversaries meddling in our elections. And you're pointing out, well, actually, no, the Chinese ambassador can explicitly do that in the District of Columbia.
Yeah, and, on top of that, if you're a district resident who's a citizen, at least I'm personally offended that my vote's being canceled out by someone who's not supposed to be here in the country.
Yeah. Yeah,
and the legal alien is not supposed to be here in the country. They're supposed to be somewhere else. at their home in wherever they're from. Instead, they're here canceling out my vote and the votes of every other citizen here in the District of Columbia. And Congress has ultimate purview constitutionally over everything that happens in D.C., and they're letting it happen.
Let's go to another scandal with our government, which is they've been using taxpayer dollars to fund an organization called the EcoHealth Alliance for some time. That organization, very close to Dr. Anthony Fauci, directed an immense amount of money to the Wuhan Institute of Virology, believed to be the place by many experts now, that birthed COVID-19, and that it came from there. We have a report this week that the feds are finally nixing the funding, at least for the EcoHealth Alliance specifically. What's your reaction to this, that they're doing it at all, getting rid of this funding? And does that mean this saga is over?
Well, it doesn't. To me, it's the beginning of an investigation that ought to be criminal. But the HHS vindicated those of us who have been hiding this. I mean, a lot of the documents they're referencing only came out thanks to Judicial Watch FOIA lawsuits initially, some Congress released. They knew back in 2016, for instance, in documents we uncovered that they were using taxpayer dollars to create mutant coronaviruses. That's their word, not mine. I never thought to call gain-of-function research creating mutant viruses, but they understood it to be that. And if we had called it mutant viruses, they would have double censored us, right? And HHS looked at the record, and frankly, it was their record, it was their documents, and they found that they were engaged in gain-of-function research. And when you look at the underlying documents, they don't say gain-of-function directly, but they say, essentially they use a technical word, logarithmic, increase in function or something like that to kind of disguise the admission. And it raises further questions about Fauci's testimony. There needs to be a criminal investigation into the fraud around gain-of-function research. Fraud which has all but been confirmed by the Biden administration's HHS. Right. I mean, the fact that they have seen enough danger here to shut it down, I'm glad they did it. But this has got to be the beginning of a reckoning, because it's still going on here in the United States. It's going on elsewhere. And because this isn't the only funding mechanism for gain of function.
Well, we need testimony from HHS on this. Why is it? So they did two things with the EcoHealth Alliance this week. Not only did they suspend their current grants, they're seeking to ban the EcoHealth Alliance from receiving any more future grants from the federal government. So how does a Biden HHS arrive at that conclusion? What have they learned that said these people should never receive money again?
Well, I mean, based on the documents I've reviewed, and I presume they reviewed the same, they promised it wasn't gain of function. And they were being pushed back that it was, and it was this back and forth. And so they were constantly lying, it looks like to me, or presenting information in a misleading way, right, to obtain this funding. And, the FBI, I don't know if I talked to you about this yet, Vince, but, I mean, we just got some documents the other day showing the FBI was going down this trail as well back in 2020. So as they're censoring us, the FBI is actually investigating the very issue in a substantive way. And they found, and they were kind of talking about internally, about how what was going on in Wuhan with this research was obviously gain of function. And not only that, they concluded and shared widely, certainly within the Newark office of the FBI that was charged with this, investigating it, that that gain of function research could result in viruses that have no fingerprints, meaning you won't know that it had been messed with by human hands.
Now, this all implicates Anthony Fauci, too, as you brought up, which is to say that it sure seems like he's perjured himself on multiple occasions before Congress about what he was aware of and what specifically the EcoHealth Alliance was up to in the Wuhan Institute of Virology. Anthony Fauci is going to testify before the Coronavirus Committee led by Congressman Brad Wenstrup on June 3rd. That's not too far away. I imagine this is going to be central to their conversation.
Well, if he doesn't take the fifth, it tells you how things are going to go, meaning he's not fearful of prosecution. But if I were him, I wouldn't testify. I'd take the fifth.
Because that's how much he's implicated in this.
I mean, the fact that there isn't a criminal investigation of his testimony, And now, did he legally commit perjury? I don't know. I mean, it looks to me like it is, but that's why you have an investigation.
Right.
And the fact that it hasn't taken place yet, maybe it will be spurred as a result of this decision, because it raises questions not only about those who were funded, EcoHealth Alliance and the Wuhan Institute, but those who were doing the funding.
All right. Tom Fitton, president at Judicial Watch, constantly digging up questions to all these deeply important answers to all these deeply important questions. Tom, good to have you with us today, sir.
Hey, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Always nice to talk to you. So how about that? So we covered a bunch of issues, but we started with Michael Cohen. Just remarkable. I just can't get over this. You know, earlier today we heard here at MAL that they had played this podcast audio of Michael Cohen claiming that he's met with Alvin Bragg for countless hours, which flies directly in the face of claims that he made to the jury this week, in front of the jury this week, that I've never met Alvin Bragg. No, I don't even know the guy. Never met him. And then he says this.
So I want to thank the Manhattan District Attorney's Office and their fearless leader, Alvin Bragg, with whom I spent countless hours laying out how Trump directed those hush money payments and countless other financial crimes.
Okay. All right. So it was a mad dash for us today. We were scrambling. Where is this audio? Going through every lousy Michael Cohen podcast you could possibly find. And jackpot, there it is. And that's what the jury heard today. Soon enough, we'll have remarks from President Trump as he once again steps outside of that courthouse. This morning, he had some words to say about, the trial yet again. And he alluded to the role that the Biden Justice Department is playing in his persecution in New York. Take a listen to President Trump today.
But it's very unfair. I'd like to be in these various states where I should be campaigning like anybody else. This is a Biden trial. This all comes out of the White House and the Department of Justice. This is all them. In fact, a lead person from the DOJ is running the trial.
Uh-oh.
So Biden's office is running this trial. This trial is a scam, and it's a sham, and it shouldn't happen.
A not subtle reference to Matthew Colangelo, the number 3 from the Justice Department, now working for Alvin Bragg as he prosecutes Trump. A lot of speculation today. Did Donald Trump violate his gag order by going after Matthew Colangelo in that way? I guess we'll see. The judge has previously threatened, I'm going to throw you in jail. But do you really think they'll throw him in jail at this point? I mean, look what the polls have done. Would they really just go full-blown, we're making you an political prisoner, martyr? Are they really going to do that at this point? I don't know about that. I think they're going to have liar's remorse. Just all of the scams that have led to this moment, it's all backfiring in their face. Sam is in Alexandria now, line 1. Sam, good afternoon. You're on the Vince Coglianese Show.
Hey, Vince. Thanks for taking the call. Honestly, I'm going to have a whole lot of pushback here on calls, but I got to lay this all at President Trump's feet. It's his fault. How in the heck can you hire somebody with a voice like that? He sounds like the fourth stooge of the Three Stooges.
Oh my God. Michael Cohen? Yeah, it is hilarious. The audio, just to people hear the voice again, what he's talking about.
So I want to thank the Manhattan District Attorney's Office and their fearless leader, Alvin Bragg.
He is really over the top. He's definitely a cartoon character. I agree with you there.
I thought I was listening to an old Jersey Shore show or something. It's like, my gosh, is this a cut out of one of the old movies from New York where
Sam,
we're having gangsters?
I know, but Sam, let's play the long game for a second. Michael Cohen seems to be on the verge of delivering the election to Donald Trump, so maybe not a bad idea.
Well, yeah, and we've always said that the president is a long strategic thinker, and boy, did he cap that one.
That's some wild 4D chess if you hire Michael Cohen just to have him years later show up on the stand in your trial. Yeah, thank you, Sam. No,
yes,
it's true. I mean, every so often you look around and you're like, how did you hire John Bolton to work in the White House? Why was Omarosa working at the White House? These are very legitimate questions. You're allowed to ask them because you live in America. And you can also conclude, as you go through that reasoning, that all of these people are way better than Joe Biden, Corinne, Kamala, and their merry band of idiots. Way better. Yeah, and I'm right there with you. I do hope that in the next term, President Trump is much better on the personnel question than he was in the first. That would be a great asset to both him and, more importantly, to us, the American people. Coming up, we're going to have Bobby Burak with us from Outkick. He's a great American. We're going to talk about the attacks on an NFL kicker now. The kickers are always catching grief, but this time we have one who's catching grief for being Catholic in public, being proud of it, speaking up about his views. And now the NFL is issuing statements distancing themselves from their own employee. Religious bigotry on display. Bobby Burak reacts next.